Hope you all can see the screen. We'll be reading from the Straits Times as usual. Hope everyone is having a good morning now that the PSLEs are over. I presume they are over. I'm not entirely sure. I'm told that the O levels are starting soon. So we're just going to do some morning news reading, probably about 3 to 4 articles. We'll be starting in a bit. And maybe along the way, if we see any unusual, difficult words, we can learn them together and build our vocabulary. So, without further ado, let's look at this news. Something relevant in our current day and age. We keep hearing this a lot, AI. So, let's find out what's happening in the world of AI. ChatGPT Maker. OpenAI to set up office in Singapore. Focus on advancing regional tie-ups. So that's something our government is very interested in right now. Singapore, ChatGPT maker OpenAI, the San Francisco-based company, synonymous. Does anyone know what the meaning of synonymous is? Synonymous, quite the long word, but it's synonymous with something else. What does synonymous mean? Synonymous means to have a similar meaning, or, as the dictionary says, is an adjective of a word or phrase having the same meaning. It's another word or phrase in the same language, closely associated with or suggestive of something. So here, OpenAI, the San Francisco-based company, synonymous with bringing generative artificial intelligence, or AI, into the spotlight, will open its second office in Asia, in Singapore, later in 2024, this year. So the Singapore office, the company's fourth international branch, will focus on advancing regional collaboration, including work and national AI program, including work with national AI program AI Singapore. It's a bit of a confusing little structure there. We'll focus on advancing regional collaboration, including work with national AI program AI Singapore. So that's the name of the program, I think. So this national AI program is one whole chunk. So that's the name of the program, AI Singapore, on generative AI models that are tuned to understand and reflect cultures and languages in Southeast Asia. OpenAI's expansion here signals the startup's long-term plans to tap Singapore's growing pool of tech talent and deepen its roots, in the region, acting as a hub for its Asia-Pacific APEC partners. CEO Sam Altman said in a statement on October 9, Singapore, with its rich history of technology leadership, has emerged as a leader in AI, recognizing its potential to solve some of society's hardest problems and advance economic prosperity. We're excited to partner with the government and the country's thriving AI ecosystem as we expand into the APAC region. Mr. Altman, 39, last visited Singapore in June 2023 doing a world tour to discuss AI related issues and address concerns about the rapid rollout of its signature product, ChatGPT, which brought generative AI into the mainstream. So I think that's really interesting, something to consider why OpenAI is setting up here, and also why our government is providing all this support. Like, what do we stand to gain, and looking forward, how can we all benefit from this? So, just a few things to think about, some critical thinking, food for thought, I guess. So, at least, if you think about it, if we're the leading authority in the region for AI, then I think we have more opportunities where we can act as consultants for the region. OpenAI, founded in 2015, has offices in London, Dublin, and Tokyo. The location of its Singapore office is still being finalized. Preferably somewhere with good food, I suppose. It will focus on supporting customers and partnerships with governments, businesses, and institutions, said OpenAI. These plans reflect Singapore's leadership position in technology and AI, as well as the growing demand for advanced AI tools across APAC, said OpenAI, which added that Singaporeans are among the highest per capita users of ChatGPT worldwide. Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. As well as a growing demand for advanced AI tools across APAC, said OpenAI, which added that Singaporeans are among the highest per capita users of ChatGPT worldwide. That's a very interesting little nugget of information. With the number of weekly active users here doubling since the start of 2024, that is insane. That is absolutely mind-boggling. When asked, OpenAI confirmed that it plans to hire between 5 and 10 employees before 2025. There's not a lot of positions open for roles related to sales, security, and solutions engineering, among others, and is committed to hiring local talent. Its regional operations will be led by Mr. Oliver J., who will serve as Managing Director of International and will be based here. Mr. J was previously Chief Revenue Officer at software company Asana and an independent board director at Grab. Oh, mhm. The firm will work more closely with Singapore government partners, such as the Economic Development Board (EDB), to support AI development here. OpenAI added, establishing a regional presence brings OpenAI closer to innovative local companies, such as Grab in Singapore and Canva in Australia, which are using OpenAI's advanced AI products to power new tools and features for their customers. How many of you use Grab? How many of you use Canva or even ChatGPT? I think most of us have more or less dabbled with these softwares or applications, so that's quite interesting to see. Interesting times. With that, OpenAI aims to make advanced AI more accessible in Southeast Asia and will provide up to $1 million or the equivalent of 1.3 million Singapore dollars to develop resources to ensure AI models that reflect the region's diverse languages and cultures under a new partnership with AI Singapore. Hmm. So there's quite a bit of developments on the AI front here now that OpenAI is setting up in Singapore. So we'll see how that plays out. As an agency tasked with driving the growth of technology here, AI Singapore is developing Sea Lion, Uh, okay. A network of chat GPT like large language models that are specifically trained for Southeast Asian users to ensure that there is an AI that captures the region's cultures. Now, I wonder if that includes Singlish, because wouldn't that be fun? Since OpenAI made ChatGPT public in 2022, its presence in Singapore has expanded quickly, with its technology being integrated into AI solutions used by both businesses and the government, including customer service chatbots and an internal AI assistant for civil servants, Pair. Okay, I didn't know about that. AI models by Google Cloud and Meta have also entered the fray and are among the systems that are being tested by the authorities here in various projects. EDB Managing Director Jacqueline Poe said OpenAI's entry is a sign of the strength of the city state's growing AI ecosystem. Investments in AI talent, computation, and demand from businesses. OpenAI's operations here is likely to help spark new collaborations across the sector, she added. The startup's overseas expansion comes on the heels of reports of its planned overhaul from a non-profit research lab into a more investor friendly, for profit business. In the light of rising operational costs of running powerful AI systems globally. While OpenAI said its non-profit arm remains core to the company, the move has raised concerns within the industry over managing AI risks, such as how it collects data for training and other ethical considerations in its new structure. The company will host its first developer day here on November 21st, so that's soon, targeting developers and startups. So that's interesting times. OpenAI, as you know, runs ChatGPT and they are setting up here in Singapore, maybe to tap into our database of chicken rice. Now let's take a short break as we scan the Straits Times for more news to read and practice and possibly learn new words. So let's do a little bit of fun news, I guess. It's not specifically local, but it's about trends and lifestyles. So I think this might be interesting. How many of you out there listen or have listened to cassette tapes? Back in my day, so anyway, as cassettes come back, the dilemma. So does anyone know what dilemma, or however you pronounce it? Does anyone know what it means? Dilemma, noun, is a situation in which a difficult choice has to be made between two or more alternatives, especially ones that are equally undesirable. A difficult situation or problem. So that is the dilemma we're in now. To read this or not? Yes, we shall. As cassettes come back, the dilemma is finding a tape deck. So the problem is finding a tape deck. Does anyone have a tape deck? No, I don't. New York. When American pop star Taylor Swift released her re recorded album, 1989 Taylor's version in an array of physical formats. In 2023, Miss Cora Buell knew she had to get the cassette right away. The 48-year-old, who is based in Delhi City, California, is a fan of Swiss music, an affinity she shares with a teenage daughter who has since bought her mother more tapes as gifts. One main reason: Miss Buell drives a 1998 BMW Z3 and has no other convenient options for the on-road album playback. Just get an old car that plays only cassettes and you listen every day, she said. Although Miss Buell might be an extreme proponent of retro design, she works as Chief Revenue Officer at online consignment store FredUp. The cassette's return is by now almost as unmistakable as its distinctive hiss and warble. Dominant in the United States from the early 1980s until it was overtaken commercially by the CD in the early 1990s, the cassette tape has survived as an underground phenomenon, a deliberately anachronistic medium of choice for artists on the noise, avant-garde and lo-fi fringes. Now there's a bunch of interesting words, so let's start with anachronistic. What does anachronistic mean? Anachronistic comes from the word anachronism. Anachronism, noun, a thing belonging or appropriate to a period other than other than that in which it exists, especially a thing that is conspicuously old-fashioned. Mass noun, the action of attributing something to a period to which it does not belong. So, in other words, something that is out of its time. A deliberately anachronistic medium in our digital age of streaming and online media. And here we have the word avant-garde. Does anyone know avant-garde? I think the Malay version of avant-garde is atas, but we shall just check that out to be sure. Avant-garde is a noun referring to new and experimental ideas and methods in art, music, or literature. So it refers to new and experimental ideas or methods in the arts. Avant-garde. So that's a fun sentence there, a bunch of interesting descriptive words. So let's run through that whole paragraph again. I'm sure you all know what lo-fi is. Have you listened to Lo-Fi Girl on YouTube? Dominant in the United States from the early 1980s until it was overtaken commercially by the CD in the early 1990s, the cassette tape has survived as an underground phenomenon, a deliberately anachronistic medium of choice for artists on the noise, avant-garde and lo-fi fringes. Very nice sentence. Very, very nice. But tapes began turning up at the trend chaser retailer, Urban Outfitters, as long ago as 2015, the same year that digital streaming first overtook download sales. Nearly a decade later, Swift's latest album, The Tortured Poets Department 2024, stands as the top-selling cassette of the year, with about 23,000 copies sold through June 30th, according to tracking service Illuminate. Sure, Tortured Poet's cassette sales pale beside its performance in other physical formats, where both sales of 1.1 million copies of CD and 988,000 on vinyl. I do want to get a vinyl record player myself someday. But Tortured Poets alone is on pace to beat the total annual sales of all albums on cassette for as recently as 2009, when the Luminate precursor Nielsen SoundScan reported a mere 34,000 units shipped. If Spotify killed the iTunes star and vinyl is increasingly a high priced luxury item, never mind CDs for the moment, then cassettes could be the cockroaches that outlive them all. As labels look to capitalize on superfans who will buy multiple formats, artists releasing new music on cassette in 2024 cross genres and generations. Though the last new car to be factory equipped with a cassette deck was reportedly a 2010 Lexus, more than a quarter of light duty vehicles on the road are at least 15 years old, according to a recent analysis by S&P Global Mobility. Susanna Thompson of the Oakland, California, banned sour wind ban okay, we're gonna backtrack a little. Susanna Thompson of the Oakland, California band Sour Widows still listens to cassettes in her 1998 Volvo wagon, which has a tape deck and CD player. I-90, a song on the alternative rock group's bittersweet new album, Revival of a Friend 2024, includes lyrics about driving down the interstate while singing along repeatedly to a beloved cassette. The tape in question was by Southern California punk rock outfit Joyce Manor. I have no idea who that is. I have a little cassette library in my car that just stays there, and I'll rotate tapes out, she said. At 29, Thompson presumably grew up after the cassette's heyday. Does anyone know the meaning of heyday? It's a fun word. You might want to use it someday. Probably refers to its golden phase, golden period, during its peak performance. Heyday. Noun, the period of a person's or thing's greatest success, popularity, activity, or vigor. Heyday. It's a fun word. Presumably grew up after the cassette's heyday, but she said that listening to the tapes was partly grounded in nostalgia for her. There is an element of protest too. Does anyone know the meaning of nostalgia? I think nostalgia, heyday, quite nice words to use. It's all very timely words, one can say. Nostalgia, noun. Sentimental longing or wistful affection for a period in the past, or something done or presented in order to evoke feelings of nostalgia. So these two words are pretty interesting because they both reflect time in the past. Heyday during something's greatest period of success, and nostalgia, longing for something of the past. Interesting words to use. So, moving along, being passionate about cassettes, vinyls, and CDs can be an act of resistance against the powers that be that have their horrible fingers in the wool of art, said Thompson. It's pretty fun. While Thompson also has a Sony Walkman style portable cassette player that has a broken part and she does not know how to fix it. Oops. To cassette listeners without access to cars of a certain age and their tape decks, oh dear, and their tape decks, Thompson's tale of a busted Walkman might have a familiar ring. The best known audio equipment manufacturers of the cassette era have long since exited the market, except if you're in Japan, because you can actually still find cassette deck players fairly common in certain electronic stores. Sony sold more than 200 million Walkmans from July 1979 when the devices debuted in Japan until the music stopped around 2010. Sony, Panasonic, Toshiba, and Bose no longer sell audio tape players. Representatives for each of the four companies confirmed. The Consumer Technology Association, a trade group in the US, stopped tracking sales of combination radio cassette CD players in 2016. So you have like a three in one piece of hardware. When there were an estimated 653,671 units shipped. What a number! Compared with a likely peak of about 25 million radio slash cassette combos in 1994, according to a spokesperson. Although the market for new cassette players became too small to bother measuring, a vast supply of the ostensibly obsolete, very nice use of alliteration, ostensibly obsolete gadgets was already in existence in various states of repair, waiting to be rediscovered. So let's hit the alliteration combo run and check what ostensibly means. Ostensibly. Ostensibly, that verb as appears or is stated to be true, though not necessarily so, apparently. So, similar words include apparently or seemingly. So, it's something that appears to be true but can't be confirmed, ostensibly. And does anyone know what obsolete means? In a world of AI, are human beings obsolete? Obsolete adjective, no longer produced or used, out of date. Are humans obsolete? I don't know. We'll find out once OpenAI sets up in Singapore. First, you have to tell me where you are. Oh dear, Siri, you're not involved in this reading session. Although the market for new cassette players became too small to bother measuring, a vast supply of the ostensibly obsolete gadgets was already in existence in various states of repair, waiting to be rediscovered. If cassettes are popular, it is in part because they are cheap for do it yourself artists and independent labels to get made. For one recent title on American musician Jack White's record label, Third Man Records, cassettes cost $2.80, which is the equivalent of Singapore $3.65 a piece to produce versus US $6.92 a vinyl LP. I don't know where you are, but oh dear, Siri's going crazy. A vinyl LP, said musician Ben Blackwell, one of the label's founders. Tape enthusiasts' preferences in playback devices can be similarly economical. Some manufacturers have entered the cassette market, meeting a simmering demand but confronting a vastly different supply side landscape than in the 1990s. FIO, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, an electronics company with headquarters in Guangzhou, China, recently debuted a bare bones Walkman style cassette player that sells for about $100. Sounds pretty affordable. The biggest challenge has been the near complete disruption of the cassette player supply chain, said the company's chief executive, James Chung, in a statement. Restoring the technical prowess of the 1990s Walkman devices is virtually impossible today. Then again, vinyl record production has largely overcome a similar supply squeeze in the past decade, so it's always an issue of supply and demand. Paris based startup We Are Rewind, what a name, introduced its own minimalist Walkman like tape player via Kickstarter in 2020. Citing inspiration from the Time Worn cassette deck, the heart of the Guardians of the Galaxy film franchise 2014 to 2023, and from the 1980s retro Netflix hit series Stranger Things 2016 to present. Has anyone watched these two films? It's no surprise that they were inspired to bring back the cassette player. Retailing for about $160 and up, We Are Rewind's portable tape machines also offer Bluetooth connectivity for wireless listening. So that's pretty clever. It's it's classic, it's nostalgic but modern. Well, the company's chief executive, Romain Bourdushi, Lord help me, Romain Bourdush, acknowledged an initial struggle to find suppliers. He said, We Are Rewind sold almost 20,000 cassette players in 2023 and hopes to double that number in 2024. He outlined plans for a smaller version and a boombox, plus collaborations with artists and brands. The possibilities are really big, even if it's still a niche. We learned this word earlier this week on Monday, I think. Can anyone remember what niche means? It refers to a very specific and specialized interest or market or thing. Mr. Baudrush said, New York Times. So sorry for butchering the guy's name because it is hard to pronounce. And that is all for this article on cassettes making a comeback and the dilemma, dilemma, dilemma in finding a tape deck. So now we will take a short break while we listen to the rain drops falling outside for a bit of a lo-fi moment. And let's see if we can find more interesting local news that is fun, I hope. Hmm. I guess we could read this. We will start in a bit. If anyone realize emergency numbers were not operating yesterday, so we shall find out what actually happened. Hello, good rainy morning to everyone. Welcome back to the morning news reading session that we are having right now. We're moving on to another local news article, something that happened recently, last night. So let's find out what went wrong. Emergency business hotlines restored after hours long Singtel landline outage. Singapore. The hotlines of the Singapore Civil Defence Force (SCDF) and police, as well as those of hospitals and banks, could not be reached on October 8 in an unprecedented island wide disruption involving Singtel's telecommunications network. Somebody's going to get in trouble. The disruption lasted for more than 3 hours. That is pretty long. Before services progressively resumed between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Netizens began submitting outage reports as early as 2 p.m. on crowdsourced outage website Down Detector when they could not get through public service hotlines. At 3:18 p.m., there were 2,706 reports on Down Detector. In a Facebook post at around 4:20 p.m., the SCDF and police urged members of the public to use SMS instead. Good, good grief. Members of the public who are experiencing difficulties reaching us at 995 or 999 can SMS SCDF at 70995 or SPF at 70999 instead, said the police. The safety and well-being of the public is our top priority. We will provide updates as soon as more information becomes available. So here is the uh, so-called post online. I presume this is on Twitter. In an update at around 6:50 p.m., the SCDF and police said 999 and 995 hotline services were restored. It is not known how many people were affected by delays in reaching emergency services. That is somewhat mildly terrifying. An annual statistics report released by the SCDF on February 21st showed it responded to 246,832 emergency calls in 2023. In 2022, it responded to 256,837 calls. Hospitals and medical centers affected included KK Women's and Children's Hospital, KKH, Changi General Hospital, CGH, Singapore General Hospital, SGH, SingHealth, and National Cancer Center Singapore. So that is pretty serious communication breakdown. KKH and SGH advised patients to contact them via email since their phone lines were down. The CGH, SingHealth, and National Cancer Center Singapore directed patients to use the SingHealth Health Buddy app for appointments, medication orders, and billing services. Wow. A National University Health System NUHS spokesperson said the organization was alerted to intermittent connection issues affecting its phone lines in the afternoon due to the disruption. Can you imagine the amount of disorder and chaos this must have caused? Our patients were, however, still able to manage their appointments or send in their queries via the NUHS app and our email channels, said the spokesperson, adding that its phone lines were fully restored by 5:35 p.m. Mr. David Kwok, 74, told the Straits Times he had tried to use his home phone to call SGH at about 2 p.m. to reschedule a medical appointment, but was unable to get through. Attempts to call Singtel's customer service hotlines were also unsuccessful, said the retired engineering officer. That is ironic because you're trying to call Singtel, but you can't get through, so it's just full of irony. Mr. Kwok visited Singtel's flagship store in Somerset to find out what was wrong and was initially told there might be an issue with the payment of his bills. Of course, it's always about the payment, isn't it? Before he was informed of the service disruption. Singtel. Probably a good time to change to some other service provider. One thing I was very worried about was the 999 and 995 numbers. He said, what happens if there's a fire? Or worse, Singtel breaks down or something. Other public hotlines affected were those of Simply Go, a unified ticketing system by the. Oh, okay. Well, that explains why some bus thingies were not working properly. Other public hotlines affected were those of Simply Go, a unified ticketing system by the Land Transport Authority in Changi Airport. Huh. Oh well. The customer service hotlines of DBS Bank, OCBC Bank, and UOB also did not work, with the banks advising customers to use their banking apps instead. In its Facebook post at around 4:50 p.m., DBS said, we have also been informed by NETS that this industry-wide issue may also impact transactions such as QR, credit and debit, and NETS card transactions via some NETS terminals. Chaos, absolute chaos. Miss Chan Chu Yan was not able to use nets when she tried to pay for skincare products at Takashimiya at around 5 p.m. The 50-year-old executive did not have sufficient cash on hand for a purchase, which added up to more than $200. So I'm guessing she saved money, I suppose. That's a good thing, right? She was puzzled as to why there had been such problems with cashless payments. I feel it's time that I start to set aside larger amounts of physical cash, just in case more outages like these, she said. Okay, sure, but as long as you don't lose your cash. Payment via DBS's PayLah and the National PayNow Instant Fund Transfer services were not affected, said DBS. Many of its landlines were also down. Ms. Mariam, a customer service supervisor at a public service agency, said issues with her company's customer service hotline began at around 2:15 p.m. and were resolved by 5:30 p.m. While my staff were glad they could take a break during the disruption lull, our caseloads have piled up. The team will have to work twice as hard tomorrow to clear our pending cases, said the 26-year-old. That's terrible. Singtel's first post on Facebook went out at around 3:40 p.m., noting that some of its customers, including public service hotlines, may be experiencing intermittent fixed voice service issues. So I guess that kind of shows that there is no fail safe when these kinds of things happen, even for our emergency lines. So that's quite disconcerting. Replying to queries from ST, a Singtel spokesperson said affected services included residential, corporate, and public services. From 4:45 p.m., services were progressively restored, starting with emergency services. This is an isolated incident, and there's no evidence to suggest it is a cyber related event, said a spokesperson, adding that services were fully restored by 6:30 p.m. We are working diligently with our partners to investigate the root cause to prevent this from happening again. The Infocom Media Development Authority, IMDA, which regulates the telecommunications sector, said it is looking into the disruption, which started at 2 p.m. Singtel was required to restore services urgently, with emphasis on key government services, said an IMDA spokeswoman. The services, including 999 and 995 hotlines, were progressively restored from 5 p.m., and all services have been restored by 6:30 p.m. IMDA takes a serious view of any service disruption to public telecommunications services and will investigate the incident, she added. So here's a little infographic of Singtel outages reported in the last 24 hours. Look at that spike. Oh, that's all for local telecommunications news. This is what happened yesterday. Hopefully, you guys weren't affected too much. We will now take a break. In the meantime, we will look for other more interesting news. Hopefully, something fun and not too sad. Okay, this would be interesting. Isn't that wonderful? Lovely sight to wake up to. So, in case you guys haven't seen this yet, this is a fun little article. Fun, questionable choice of words, but one more article for the morning before everyone loses their appetite. Here we go. Auntie Anne's in Mid Valley KL closed after worker found kissing dough. Yum. Petaling Jaya, the Mid Valley outlet of Auntie Anne's Malaysia, will be closed for thorough disinfection and cleaning, the pretzel store said after a social media post to one of its staff members kissing pretzel dough went viral. Auntie Anne's Malaysia said in an announcement that the staff member, who was formerly employed in the Kuala Lumpur outlet, was terminated immediately after the incident. At Auntie Anne's Malaysia, we are committed to upholding the highest standards of hygiene and safety for our customers and staff. We do not condone or tolerate any actions that compromise these standards. Does anyone know the meaning of compromise? Would it be compromising for me to check the word now? So let's find out the meaning of compromise. Compromise, noun, an agreement or settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions, an immediate state between conflicting alternatives reached by mutual concession. The expedient acceptance of standards that are lower than is desirable. Or verb, which is the one we're looking for here, the verb, meaning settle a dispute by mutual concession, or to expediently accept standards that are lower than is desirable. Can also mean, with reference to an object, bring into disrepute or danger by indiscreet, foolish, or reckless behavior, cause to become vulnerable or function less effectively. So there you go, compromise, to settle a dispute by mutual concession, or an agreement or settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. That was quite a bit to read through. So coming back to this fun little news, we do not condone or tolerate any actions that compromise these standards. It said in a Facebook post on October 8. As part of our proactive measures, the outlet in question will be temporarily closed for thorough disinfection and cleaning, it added. The outlet, it said, would reopen once the disinfection process is completed and all necessary safety protocols have been confirmed. It is also assured customers that their safety and well-being will always be its top priority. Quote the Star Asia News Network. So, does anyone like Auntie Anne's? I mean, it's pretty popular in Malaysia. Not too sure about Singapore, but so here's the little post from Auntie Anne's official page in Malaysia. Thank you to all who have shown concern and highlighted the recent incident involving, oh, they even put the name there, involving Alice Chang, our friend here. We would like to clarify that Alice Chang was previously employed by Auntie Anne's Malaysia, but she was immediately terminated following this incident. At Auntie Anne's Malaysia, we are committed to upholding the highest standards of hygiene and safety for our customers and staff. We do not condone or tolerate any actions that compromise these standards. As part of our proactive measures, the outlet in question will be temporarily closed for thorough disinfection and cleaning. The outlet will reopen once the disinfection process is completed and all necessary safety protocols are confirmed. We appreciate the understanding and patience of our valued customers during this time. Rest assured, your safety and well-being are always our top priority. Regards, Auntie Anne's Malaysia. Well, can't say the same for the people who had the kissed dough, but that's something fun for today before we end the session. Maybe we can squeeze one more short piece of news. That's not short, that's pretty long. I think we can probably wrap this up. We shall stop here with Auntie Anne's little news. Something to whet your appetite before lunch. So please join us again for more morning news reading. I do believe our next session today will be at around 2:30, I think. Do join us for some oral practice O level practice paper 1 at around 2:30 p.m. today, and come back tomorrow or in the evening. You can join us for our evening session where we will be going through P5 lessons with teacher Mitsuko. So do join us tonight at around 5 p.m. for teaching P5 with teacher Mitsuko. Thank you for joining us this morning for news reading. And please don't kiss the door if you are working.